Now, the previous government said we were knocking on an open door when we made the recommendation in 2014, but nothing happened. And certainly, I myself heard the Prime Minister say that he was not in favor of discrimination against the LGBT community. So that is very, very heartening. And I think that he should be held to his view. He should be held to his admirable view, and he should be encouraged and supported in what is a view that is really admirable and should gain support.
I am pretty sure that the advocates will ensure that he lives up to what he has said. In conclusion, Attorney Lynette Seebaran-Suite, I do want to ask you to repeat where you visited before the top of this, so that any ambiguity regarding the laws of Trinidad and Tobago in the area of abortions and the risks that doctors are at for performing them. Detail for us, please, exactly where the law is. And as I said, I'm asking you to repeat. We covered it at the top of the discussion.
Yes.
What is legal? What are the exceptions, and what are the risks taken by doctors who choose to perform this, or what is the prerequisite they must meet in order to do that?
Yes, all right. Well, we start off with criminal provisions in the Offences Against the Person Act, sections 56 and 57, which prohibit unlawful abortions procured by a woman and prohibit any person who assists her in procuring an abortion, and provides a maximum term of imprisonment of 4 years for the woman and a maximum term of imprisonment for the assistant of 2 years. Now, the sections say that these offenses would apply to unlawful abortion. And the case law that has developed in England and the Commonwealth over the years in interpreting these sections have declared that if a doctor has an honest and clinical belief that he is performing the procedure for the purpose of preserving the life or the physical or mental health of the woman, he will have a complete defense to a charge under the second section. So, as I said before, the difficulty with that is that you run the risk of prosecution, and then you have to defend yourself. And it's very amorphous, it's very difficult to pin down, and it is an area which would benefit while the society is debating the pros and cons from the issuance of protocols. Indeed, there are Commonwealth countries in which judicial review has issued against the state to compel the state to perform their responsibilities in inquiring into the incidence of unsafe abortion and providing guidance, because the public law has developed in such a way that the state has a positive duty to protect its citizens and to provide for the safety of its citizens. And certainly in Ireland, there was successful litigation. The Family Planning Association of Northern Ireland, FPATT, several years ago, successfully brought a judicial review against the state, the Northern Ireland state, to compel it to inquire into the incidence of unsafe abortion and to provide services and guidance within the confines of what was permissible under the existing law. So it's not impossible that forcible measures can be brought against the state to make them address the issue.
we would have to force the issue if there continues to be this slow move forward. I'm glad you cleared that up, because it's very clear that a lot of doctors looking at this situation, knowing that they have to get into a situation of being questioned, and then they have to justify themselves, will say, look, this is not worth it, let me just stay away from this, and they
Of
stay
course.
away from this. And of course what you do is you create an incentive for folks to go backyard and get it done, because once you're there, you can't do anything about it. Attorney Lynette Seebaran-Suite, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning, and thank you for your legal clarity.
You're very welcome too.
I trust that you have yourself a wonderful day and a good weekend.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Sharpe.
Bye-bye, Lynette.
It is 10 minutes away from the 11 o'clock hour. 11 o'clock, we'll be talking to Martin Daly. We'll be talking about the SSA. Suniti Maharaj will be joining us along with Rhoda Barrett. We will be dealing with what is the SSA and what is the Interception of Communication Act, because they've been conflated, and there's a whole lot of confusion about that. What was that whole brouhaha about is one issue. I want to continue with Dr. Jacqueline Sharpe, who is with me. Doctor, as the head of the FPA, you made very clear, and it's a very good case. The high mortality and morbidity rates caused by self-induced and backdoor abortions, in spite of the illegality, was just one of the many reasons why amendment is necessary. You did say, however, that there are a number of areas to be looked at: social, which you commented on earlier, and economic issues. Now, when we talked about economic issues before, we talked about the income and the access to having the abortions. What are there any other economic considerations you were referring to?
All right. I think that when I'm going to go back to a woman who is seeking a termination of pregnancy, and it's in that context that socio and economic conditions might be considered. And those would be that particular woman's situation. Because I think when, in the final analysis, a termination of pregnancy is an issue for the woman in question. So it is her socioeconomic situation that would need to be considered. In Barbados, in Guyana, which are the two countries in the Caribbean who have liberalized their termination of pregnancy laws, they include in the law that a woman may request a termination of pregnancy for socioeconomic situations. That is not necessarily described in the law, but that would then be evaluated by the person with whom they are seeking the service. The law in Guyana and the law in Barbados then teases that out more, so that a pregnancy before 12 weeks, that is something that happens between the woman and her doctor. In Barbados, between 12 and I think 20 weeks, it has to be two doctors, etc. Okay, so that what we're saying is that clearly there would need to be protocols and specific clarifications around any decision to amend the Termination of Pregnancy Act.
I want to go to something that's going to fuel a little controversy here, maybe, because you mentioned it earlier that most of these abortions happen in unions, as you call them.
Yeah.
Yes, in unions. And it has been argued before, and I'm just curious, when you talk about family planning, I gather that you don't only get the women in there, but you get the family in there. There was the question of if they're in a union, and this flies in the face of a woman's rights over her body, maybe, that the spouse should be involved in that decision making. Is that something?
Well, let me just back you up a little bit and define what in union is. Okay, the sociologists in the Caribbean will define and in the work that people do, they have to have definitions for that. So if you are married legally, either in church or if you are living in what is a recognized common law union, or if you're in what is called a visiting union. You don't live in the same house, but you and this person have an ongoing, and you may have children together. Okay. So those are the people that I'm talking about. So these are quite often women who have had more than one child already. Most women will tell you, and I'm talking now as a psychiatrist, not necessarily as the head of the Family Planning Association, but when people talk about their children, they're quite they will say whether they wanted the pregnancy or didn't want the pregnancy. Sometimes their spouse, the person who is the father of the child, will have left because they did not want to have this child. So clearly, women and their partners have discussions about terminations of pregnancy. But your human rights end where mine begin. And as a woman's body is her right, not anybody else's, So that's, yes, there's a conversation, but like I said, in human rights terminology, your rights end where mine begin.
Gotcha. I've heard it argued before, thought I would bring it. Give me the top 3 initiatives you would like to see as the head of the FPA taken through those who govern us towards getting to some updating of this issue of abortions in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, first of all, let me clarify. I am not the head of the FPA.
The advisory director, am I correct?
The Family Planning Association of Trinidad and Tobago has a board of governors. There's a president and there's a board. I am a past president of the FPA and I'm an advisory director to the board.
That's right. Advisory director.
So let me clarify.
Okay. So nobody is bothered. As the advisory director of the FPA of Trinidad and Tobago. Right.
What the Family Planning Association of Trinidad would like to see right now is clarity around what is the legal situation now. In other words, the development of protocols that say, since abortion is by the evaluation of the legal for a woman in cases of her health, including her mental health, how can this be done now? That's one. So we need some protocols to say, given the situation with the law, this is what is permitted and this is how it is going to work. Because I'm saying to you that there are women right now who need termination of pregnancies because their health life is in danger. If you look back at that list that I gave you, there are in that list 5 medical terminations. Yes. That says to me that there were 5 terminations of pregnancy done for medical reasons, probably to save the life of the woman. Okay? So that's what we need, first of all. Second of all, I think we need to have more support for comprehensive sexuality education, because that will be one of the ways in which the unplanned pregnancies will be reduced. Unplanned/unwanted pregnancies. Not because all unplanned pregnancies are not necessarily unwanted. Okay, but so that people who really do not want to be pregnant don't have to be pregnant. So we need to support the Family Planning Association more so that we can widen the work that we do. Okay, and to make family planning services, they're already integrated into the primary healthcare system, but they need to be beefed up. And Family Planning Association is really very willing to work to support any initiative that improves the sex and reproductive health and rights of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
I am hopeful that the conversation and advocates like yourself, and in your capacity as advisory director of the FPA and other advocates, will get this moving early, because these numbers, as you discussed with me early prior to getting on here, when you look at what the hospital is reporting of 1,854 abortions, you're looking at 338. 333 was spontaneous, and 5 of those, as you said, done for the health of the mother. And that is only a snapshot of what is going on in our country.
And that was 11 years ago, 12 years ago?
Yes, 2004, yes. Frightening numbers. Doctor, all I can do is thank you very much for taking up your time and coming out here this Sunday. I truly appreciate your input here, and I hope that we can be calling on you again in the not-too-distant future.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I thank you so much for being here this morning. You're listening to Brunch on 107.7. Going to take a break and come back and deal with the SSA and journalists. I'm going to talk about that when we come back.